Campaigns are sophisticated because the real attackers are very sophisticated.
Of course, pen testing is not going into the Mont Blanc shop and taking the refill in and out. Whoa!
IT is to enhance our lives.
Sure.
Therefore, it should not be constraining us because of security, but we should be able to work with security. Take that a step further. You work in a huge company, and how do you make sure that the 10,000 applications that are running are all following this thing, and how do you track it all? And
welcome to the show.
Welcome. That sounds very dramatic. Welcome, episode 9.
Episode 9 in the secret bunker.
Absolutely, of the InfoMatters podcast. Welcome back, Danny, and our guests are here this evening, ready to entertain you with the appropriate news. Yes, Daniel, the business of the podcast.
Indeed. Again, thank you. Hello out there to the audience. I hope you've not all been meta-attacked, like a lot of people. Even in the bunker, we got meta-bombed. Again, thanks again to Xtelligence. We're powered by the InfoMatters podcast. Again, ring the bell, subscribe to those new people out there you've been recommended by friends. If you are in the market for any new jobs, new experiences, or just want to talk to us, just add some comments in the box below, or you can get hold of us at host@infomatterspodcast.com. If you are looking at any positions, or you're just browsing the market, have a look at xtelligence.com. Everything's in the box below. Ring that sodium bell. So, Kenny, this week I believe it's data security.
Yes, well, it's got very topical because not to give away the timing of the podcast recording, but today was a bit of a day, a bit of a crap day for our friends at Meta. With we understand there's been a bit of a majestic outage, so WhatsApp's not working, Instagram's not working, but then of course we have jobs.
Facebooked.
So yeah, that's one way of putting it. And so to talk about that, Daniel, I thought we would talk, or indeed we thought we'd talk a little bit about data security.
And we're going to do it with the one and only Joel Fraboni. Joel, welcome back, mate.
Yeah, good to see you.
How are you? Good to see you, mate. You like that? I'm dressed up today.
For those that haven't noticed, he's wearing a tie, but it's kind of painted on. It's kind of a good look.
Yeah, well, it's not the only thing painted on.
Yeah. Ring that bell, you know what to do.
Subscribe.
And we'll see if we can get something about data security. There's got to be a dump in there somewhere. We can come away later, Big J.
You can't have data security without good log.
Without a good log.
Right, so the core elements of data security, I imagine availability, confidentiality, legality, I suppose, within corporations.
Yeah, I mean, you have a good big company, the one that's on top of their security game. They'll have really good structure and frameworks. Classifications are key, right? I mean, some of your basic ones, right? I mean, obviously, with any IT, you need to have, your availability. It's like
it's key,
platforms
keep things going.
are critical. I mean, you could ask. There's a company we know of who had a little issue with that a few years ago. WannaCry floated around.
And it wasn't Meta.
I was about to say we haven't been at Facebook, but it kind of keeps us in jobs. It should be said. We've been in many projects that.
It was a really good topic the other day. I was reading about and IT security and how really. There were some young kids who did a study on it. They found out that the tactics and the things that are being done, security is actually one of the least evolving areas of IT.
Go figure,
It's quite redundant, even though the attack vectors are constantly changing and the ways of the attacks are being changing.
Very elaborate, right?
But the processes being used to deliver the security haven't really changed to keep up with it, and that's.
We reflected on it an episode ago, 2 episodes ago, in the secret bunker on this too. Not to go over it, and the sheer scale of it, and the sheer broadness of every company it affects, and the awareness is next to zero. I mean, I've asked a few people within our organisation, and they're like, no idea. It sounds like a Nintendo 42 Wibblewobble, doesn't it? A Ken Dodd machine.
Well, exactly. And the evolution of these policies and frameworks kind of dictates or kind of indicates that there should be a speeding up and a faster pace and a kind of more work being done and all that kind of stuff to kind of match the threat. Right, but we know that's not the case.
So what and then you deliver a 92-page framework that every company needs to you can't just take it and say, okay guys, this is now what we're going to follow. NIST and all these other groups that go out. I mean, you've got to go to all of them and you've got to absorb them and you've got to build a framework that's going to fit for your company. Right. And so first of all, I'm going to say big respect to those people who do it because that's not me.
And
again,
Intelligence.com, they've got a couple of jobs coming up.
I quite equate those guys to like lawyers. It's legal.
That's the legality side, isn't it?
Almost. I mean, but to read the framework. I mean, and take it this way, and you guys have had some really good guests in here because I've been following your podcast. You've had some really good guests that have been talking about the various,
things that are topical,
frameworks that are being introduced that are on a high level, right? But to take that and to digest it down to something palatable, that's an art form. And those guys, I mean, you got to be able to read that.
And turn it into a bunch of
volume
actions.
of data and turn it into something actionable. And the
Da Vinci Code.
So
wipe my bottom.
To all you guys that I've worked with in the past and those I'll work with in the future, I really do respect you, even though I'm going to challenge you every day of your life. I respect the hell out of what you do because the interpretation of the rules, it's just like this is like anything else. It's just like society. You've got the rules and the laws, and then you've got the police who have to enforce them, and how they enforce them is not always necessarily within the letters of the.
And so when it comes to security, the evolution of these things is
data security.
I mean, at the end of the day,
it's the same.
It's an attempt to keep up with the threats and all that kind of stuff, but it's an ever-evolving cycle and all that kind of stuff.
Because we're talking software and hardware, aren't we? So across the estate to protect
connectivity.
Well, and it's bigger than that. You got software, you got hardware, but then you got the weakest link in the chain. You got the people,
the person.
You got the person and the users, right?
And it's I guess constantly having to kind of brief them on new attack techniques, that sort of stuff. There are the obvious ones we know, phishing and all that kind of stuff.
Malware.
But you know what? I tell you what, they get better and better.
Oh, they do, and they're so convincing.
We had a campaign in my company just the other day where it's like, hey, we're this external company that's doing this work for you, and we need you to go click on this. And the funny part was the terminology. I mean, obviously they crafted this phishing test very well.
So this was a legitimate campaign.
It was a legitimate internal campaign, and they were doing a test, and because they know that we're in the middle of a big transition, so they word it in the right way to where you're going, oh my God, I forgot to do something, and I went and I clicked, and I'm like, oh son of.
Why did I?
So you become the high risk.
And immediately I'm texting my security guys, going,
he's texted himself, going,
I'm the dumbass who clicked that. I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have done that. And the point is and those campaigns are sophisticated because the real attackers are very sophisticated. And of course, I don't fall for the, hey, we need you to sign a PO for $1 million right away and send it to India, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Like,
they tend to be a bit more blatant and obvious.
The campaigns are a little more dialed in, and they're meant to really make you think about what you're clicking on.
I got a UPS SMS this morning.
There's a campaign.
UPSparceldelivery.com. And you're like, because I know I've ordered something off Amazon, it's coming today. You go, click.
Yep. At Christmas,
every card's cancelled.
Yeah, at Christmas I had 3 of those, and the first thing I did, I mean, so it's Christmas time, so I'm hyper aware that people are scamming, and the first thing I do is, all right, who was the sender? What's the return address?
Yeah.
And then I hover over to see the link where it's going to send back to it. I'm like,
that's not happening.
Let me go to UPS's website and see what it looks like. Look, that's not the same, huh?
But they are very elaborate, and they have said
very good
that scammers are marketeers, so they're pending.
They're salesmen.
Of course. And the chances of anyone having an Amazon delivery in the post at any given time is probably quite high. Hence the UPS.
Right? Yeah, you've won a flight to Antarctica. Bothered.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you've got an Amazon parcel coming. Well, half the time I bloody well do, right?
Yeah.
So and if you're particularly at Christmas time or busy people, you can be semi-conscious and you're talking to somebody and you go, you got to be careful.
And mate, you just tapped on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I consider myself a security professional, and I've tapped on those campaigns before. And the reason I do is because it's my 4-year-old who's pulling on my shirt going, Daddy, I want that lollipop. And I'm trying to pay for something in the shop. Well, oh my God, I got to read this email. Oh, wait, I'll click that.
Where's my Jimmy Savile pin doll?
And then you get home and you're going, Sickles, I made a mistake.
And there's some controls in the technology. The Office 365 will scan the URL and it can tell you if it's malicious. Sometimes, not all the time, but you've got to be diligent.
So that's really, and I want to go down that path, right? Because we're going to segue back a little bit.
Yeah.
So, right, you've got all these really sophisticated marketeers, right, that know how to campaign.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just one layer, right? That's more the user attack vector, right? And then you've got all of the the professionals who can get into your systems. They know how to do some lateral movements, and then they're just hiding and waiting. Typically, those are going to be more your government, governments and other corporate spies.
Well, we discussed that with pen testing, didn't we? They go in, go that way.
Yeah, and they sit in the
they'll leave it there for weeks.
Cyber attack chain, if you like.
Yep.
There's a reconnaissance.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah. And again, pen testing is not going into the Mont Blanc shop and taking the refill in and out. And going, I can scribble balls.
Actually,
I've been doing it wrong for years.
We'll get a link to the cyber it's a cyber attack vector chain.
Attack vectors chain.
It's actually quite interesting. It shows you, or just kind of highlights to the kind of average user. What the kind of various steps
of
an
the
attack.
MITRE attacks, wasn't it?
It is. MITRE is one of the big ones. And to be fair, I mean, again, this goes, beautiful. This goes back to, MITRE is another one of these frameworks. Yeah. And so the nice thing about MITRE is I think it's a little bit, let's say down, you've got your NIST and your other, and they're creating.
It's all very strategic and that sort of stuff.
And it's very high level.
Yep.
I mean, again, you got to take that. And really big credit to the people who do it and the companies I've worked with, all the people I've worked with in the past. I think, some of the guests you've had on here are people that do this, where they take that and digest it, and then they figure out, okay, in our company, how does this affect us? How can we put this into effect in our company?
How can you credibly claim that you're NIST 2 compliant? Which would be some way off, given it's just come out.
Which, as we were saying prior to this, weren't we, Joel?
Yeah.
No one's got a clue.
No, and nobody.
It's too high level within the politics.
Exactly.
I'm compliant. Sure.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you really want to measure your compliance, at the end of the day, you look at what are the processes that we've built and policies that match up to the policies that give us as much coverage as possible and visibility. It's visibility from a security. It's security. It's what you can see and what you can't see. You certainly, and it's happened before. But you don't want the dark web guy bad actor coming out, selling data back to your own company, right?
I would think
I recognise that. I was my left foot.
I know, exactly. A million what?
And trust me, this stuff happens.
No, I get it. That takes a pair of balls to
be honest.
Data and come
to be honest with you, this is why you pay for cyber insurance, because you're going to get it at some point in time. It's going to happen to you, and you got to be prepared.
So let's throw this one at you. Yeah. So I read previously, like the number one, like data security breach or data security. It's the end user, as you said before.
It's the weakest link in the chain.
It's accidental exposure. So how do you protect the data from, let's say 90% of
tools? Good visibility. You got to have tools that give you visibility, and I think one of the things that you really need to focus in on, and I'm seeing this trend more and more. You've got to have something with machine learning and. I want to temper expectations. I'm not going to go on a big rampage about AI and how great it is.
But that has value.
And I'm not going to talk about how bad it is. AI is AI. You're basically, you're training the computer. It doesn't think for you, but you can tell it what to look for. So it can look while you're not.
Didn't we use that? Was it UEMI?
We use Securonics was one of the tools we use. Actually, in today's day and age, almost every platform has machine learning in it now.
Yeah, because that's the cool tool. And you kind of want a degree of that because it provides the non-human.
Even my camera's got machine learning. So stop taking photos of that. I'll show you some later. Myself and Joel we were looking in the pre-show with the producer. And I was going, oh bollocks.
And moving swiftly on. I'm working with some AI-based tool, or indeed machine learning. AI sounds like it's plugged into the
machine learning.
It has its place, right?
Machine learning's not. Again, when we talk about machine learning, we're basically giving the machine a bunch of parameters. Hey, we want to look for things like this that could happen like this. Doesn't have to be exact, but it needs to be something like that. And then you let it chunk through huge amounts of data. So you let it just plow through a data lake, and just chunk through all that. And then after 3-4 months, it spits out and goes, "Oh my God, here's all these rules."
Does it spit out, or does it?
It'll tell you.
Seen a theme dump. But surely with all these tools, 3 or 4 months down the line, that's light years in cybersecurity. That's useless alerting on that because the events happen.
Yeah, all right.
You want more preventative alerting.
But hold on. So I don't disagree. And this is probably where the biggest, I think, for CISOs and CIOs, this is the biggest gotcha they fall into. Hey, I bought the tool. I got machine learning, I got AI, I got all this stuff running, I'm safe. And then all of a sudden they're getting called into the principal's office, board of directors, because they just got, all their data being sold back. You're gonna acquire this company, and do you really want the data? Because we stole it already.
Where is it? The Gaza Strip.
Right?
Controversial.
But again, therein lies the problem. And this is where that like sweet spot we talk about.
Yeah.
Marrying the framework to policies and processes that work, and then leveraging things like machine learning to look in the right areas to again, it's nothing more than to broaden your visibility.
I see.
Right. And so you're going from I'm a guy looking at a screen and I'm like this to now I've got, watchers and feelers out wide and I'm combing a bigger area. So I'm going to, of course, be able to harvest and find more of those artifacts. And yes, does it mean that the number of false positives goes through the roof? Absolutely does.
Yeah.
And typically in really big companies that have stupid amount of money to spend, they're going to buy other tools that use machine learning to figure out how to wipe out the false positives.
Machine learning.
Right. And until you get to a point where you're like, well, gee, I'm totally covered with all this machine learning, and you still have stuff happening.
That's a false sense of security. Right?
It absolutely is.
It's all very well having the logging, but surely you need red lights and flags going up whenever something.
Well, your knock lights up your sock lights up your boss.
Yeah,
and your boss pays ransomware.
And your boss lights you up.
And then your boss lights you up.
Right.
Lights alive.
Right. It's Christmas.
Yeah.
And my
packages arrived. Don't all my money's gone.
And my biggest criticism of all these tools that I've seen, the Splunks and all that kind of stuff, all cracking set of dashboards.
Yeah.
Everything looks pretty.
A cracking set of dashboards.
Oh, they are. Oh, they are.
Right.
They are. I mean,
cracking set of dashboards.
And executives just like, oh my God, look at that dashboard. I need that one and that one and that one and that one.
Which tell you you've got a problem. Well, you know you've got the bloody problem because that's what you bought. The software.
Well, they say
there's no preventative.
No.
Right. So you can't prevent it, but how do you contain and control?
How do you handle how do you handle the volume of incoming alerts? Yeah. Right. And yes, machine learning and ways to, and you've got I mean, I remember I worked for a company, again, we won't name names, but I worked for a place that we had outsourced the first level of our SOC, and the first year we got the bill, we're just going, something's wrong here. This is 10 times more than what we
You went to Jermaine Street for something, not Primark.
But the problem was that the same year we implemented 4 new tools that actually brought a lot more alerts in. And nobody thought of that new
the charging model needs to change.
And of course the vendor's just like, cha-ching, bring it on, baby. Right? And after, some reworking of the contract, we got everything settled back in, but yes,
So you got a ton of. So back to the question: were you trending towards being more secure, or were you just trending towards having control over something?
The more visibility I have, the more secure I can be.
Okay, that makes sense.
I mean, at the end of the day, security in IT is nothing but castle defense. We're always going to lose when we're the defender. Yeah. They always come out with a newer, faster way. They come out faster, bigger, stronger, and then you're reacting. That's the game. And that's okay. That's how we want to play the game. So yes, we're not going to catch everything up front. The trick is to give yourself the biggest amount of visibility,
the biggest gun,
and then the widest. You need the widest visibility you can get, and then you need tools that help narrow that focus in on what really matters. And what really matters depends on the company, because what matters to a huge shipping company may be very different than what is really important to a pharmaceutical or a bank.
So you're saying that these tools bring more visibility into the problem, therefore better options to contain and control and react.
But then they create more problems because then you have more alerts that you have to sanitize to actually find where the real security threats are.
And how do you decide to choose the right? Yeah, because there's so many. I mean, every year there's like your washing powder, the new improved aerial submarine Tampax. You're like, well, hang on, I've been buying the old one, so I'll buy the new one for more money. But my clothes were clean before.
I was going to say, this is the
toothpaste. You've been using not Ariel automatic because you've been foaming at the gas.
That'd be weird, right? But the Apple iPhone 21 has got new and improved rocket boosters and all that kind of stuff.
Cameras.
Exactly, it's got a better camera, but the old one wasn't shit.
No.
You're constantly
choose that,
you're constantly evolving into the latest and greatest policies, all that kind of stuff. But surely there has to be a point where all this
process and it's really, it comes down to the companies that are really good at it are the companies that have an ability to be, and I hate this framework, but they can be very agile when it comes to. It's that PM word that I hate. But they can be very agile in adjusting where their focus is, and they can do that because they've married their processes with their tooling, and that is. And I hate to say it,
that makes sense. So they're quite mature in the way that they approach. It's a constant top 5 top thing. top 10 things to look at. That top 10 is fed by the new vision and control and visibility.
Develop, test.
If you have a new person coming in every day going, oh my God, we have to have this new vision, I mean, that's disruptive. But look, today we realize that users are a weak link. We need to really lock them down.
Yeah.
I worked at a big chip manufacturing company. Won't mention any
McCain's.
Intel. And I mean, that was one of my first jobs. So I was like a minion working and I lived in Arizona.
Was it crinkle cut? I like
because we said McCain's and they make frozen chips. The oven.
For those in the UK, you know what we're talking about.
The salty ones I like the most. We had those in the US, I'm sure of it.
Crinkle cut always tastes better.
Crinkle cut.
So crinkle cut.
Oh yeah.
So we had this place where the employees basically were given a budget to buy their own IT equipment. And every year you'd be given a budget of, I don't know, 3,000 quid. And you go onto the company's little website and you could shop for whatever.
One Mac and 3 calculators.
Right?
They're for you.
I mean, for guys at my level, we could afford the calculator.
Yeah.
My boss could afford
it's a sketch.
And then his boss got a full Mac. Right? No, I mean, at the time, I think it was.
So they let you go shopping for your own kit. That's good.
But it was a great way of working because it let people pick and choose their digital workspace, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
And again, IT is to enhance our lives.
Sure.
Therefore, it should not be constraining us because of security.
Yeah.
But we should be able to work with security to still allow these tools to be tools and enhance our life. Those days are gone. Companies can't do that now because now if they give you that machine,
you open that door.
How do they lock that thing down and make sure you're not surfing? I mean,
even an image doesn't do
when the company
shit
becomes
these days.
accountable. I mean, part of some of the laws with the EU, right? I mean, if you're looking at inappropriate material on your laptop, the company is actually responsible for that. Even if it's your personal laptop because it's on their network.
I always remember the advent of the internet years ago, and in the usage policy, it said a degree of personal use was accepted, and it was about 4 or 5 hours before the people in Greece were.
It was great.
I still remember the days when we used to manually block websites for the rest of the company. My favorite was bikesonbikes.com. I did not look. Maybe I did, but it was purely for work professional reasons.
It wasn't.
No, that's
it wasn't websites about cats.
Moving
on. I mean, we go to the coffee shop, 2 cups, and it still gets my mind buzzing.
Absolutely.
Well,
So I'll throw this out to you guys because there's something I read just prior to holy shit. Get that out of my head. Know your enemy, know your product, know your secrets.
Know your friends.
And it applies.
No, keep your enemies close and your friends closer.
Enemies closer. So, I mean, there's a theme here, right? So it's all about the people. They're the biggest risk.
Well,
the constant evolution of people. The constant.
But it still boils down to it. In the company I work in, we need to make sure that we have processes and policies, right? So we take a policy, and if you get somebody who's really pedantic and the policy says you have to press X before you can press Y. Yeah. If it makes no sense, it brings no value. It doesn't bring a security value. It's just adding a hop for people to do because somebody read it on a manual somewhere.
Right. So there's no
that's the problem in security. The people implementing the framework into processes that actually are
because it says it in the policy, but actually there's no security gain.
Because when you create a process that again delivers no value back to the security, right? And you were challenging me on what are you gaining from the wider view? What are you gaining? Well, if you don't have the right processes in place, nothing.
Sure.
Because you have a policy telling you to do something, and you're just kind of barely going through the motions.
Yeah, because you're just going to be sitting on oodles and oodles of data that's meaningless. And the difference in my head, and somebody said this to me once, is data is useless. Information is what you want. So you have to turn the data into information. That's where you kind of join the dots, right? So it all has to be logged and prioritized.
Well, that's why you have a data lake versus a database,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So, and in these cases, all these apps and services, lovely dashboards as they are, have got to have a value. And if the compliance is driven from the policy, and this too, CAF, all that kind of stuff, there has to be a point in the middle. And whereupon to be CAF compliant, to be NIST 2 compliant, everything needs to map. There's a reason I like MITRE. It's a list of stuff to do. I really like that. Yeah,
MITRE does a great job of giving you practical processes that you would marry with your policy.
Yeah, right? A load of money for consultancy.
You know what?
MITRE. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. For those who are looking for a job, don't forget intelligence.
Ring that bell. We know.
If you're a MITRE expert, intelligence.
Yes.
We
come and talk.
Intelligence, come talk to us.
Yeah.
We'll always find people like that.
Oh yeah.
They're always going to have a job. People who know how to secure stuff.
But
and what I have noticed,
but isn't that the magic? Isn't that I mean, that's like when you bake a cake and it comes out fluffy and tastes right.
Never baked
versus
a cake,
like a brick.
Never baked a cake.
All right.
I did it the weekend actually. I know Yorkshire pudding.
See, so it's like that. If you put the recipe together right, your company can be quite secure. I mean, if you have people who know how to build the right processes to marry to the policies, you could have a company that's really secure, quite automated. Yeah. You're not spending a lot of money on the people. You have an effective security
against the people,
right?
You're defending against your own workforce, but it's necessary.
Well, my mother used to say, back in the days of pen and paper, everything was secure because it wasn't online. It wasn't quite fireproof, but you get the point. I would love if the likes of the
except for when you got the steam out to open the envelope.
She's not that old, Joe. Yeah, actually, she is that old. Sorry, Mum. Right, but if you had Office 365 and you had all your productivity tool set at the desktop and all your apps, and then you could pick a setting, what framework do you want to be compliant with? CAF, NIST, NIST2, all the rest of them. And
I don't want to pick any of them. And
they just give you a list of settings to apply.
Yeah, but they don't.
I know, but that's why we've got jobs.
I mean, it's just, right? I mean, and if you're good at doing that, Xtelligence is the place to go.
Like that bed, just throw all in the comments.
Kenny never works again.
I mean, to be honest, Kenny, and I think you answered your own question. Literally, yes, that's why we have jobs, because we've taken the time to study those frameworks and assess them, and then figure out how to make policies that actually bring some value to the company. And when I say value, I'm talking about security value. And you said something interesting. Data's information, right?
Data is data, information structured data, or something like that.
Right. But so I'm going to take a step further. Data is worthless.
Yeah. It needs to be information.
Data that you can manipulate in the right ways is worth untold amounts of money. And you can look at companies like BlackRock and these other big companies that do nothing but harvest data and then resell it out. They are. They're data brokers for a reason.
That happened
right?
in the metaverse, didn't it?
Cambridge Analytica, they got bummed.
But they did the same thing. They took their data.
They did a bunch of data mapping and manipulation and it was proven to have skewed voting, I think was the way.
That's the ticket.
When the bomb fell out of them.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I mean, again,
look who you got.
You start manipulating data, and then where do you stop? Like where are the boundaries where you're manipulating it to a point where people can use it?
Yeah.
But not enough to where you're steering them one way or the other. And again, this in our day and age, data is used for steering people. I mean, we look at just the ad.
Well, I think they call it influencing, but that's the legal part. The manipulating part's probably the illegal.
I mean, I was sitting having a conversation with my wife the other day about how we needed to look something up for my daughter for school, and all of a sudden I'm getting Google ads about that exact topic, and
careful what you look for when you've got your family around you.
I mean, I need the worst part was
protector for my ghoulies.
The worst part was there was no computers in the room, but our phones were there, right?
Of course. And of course, lights alive again.
So things are listening, and of course that data is being used and manipulated to make money. And why is it that these ad companies their technology is so good? But yet,
I think they call it personalization.
It's when Alexa knows the postman by his first name.
Right? Exactly. You know Alexa's. But I was also reading.
Your wife normally calls the maintenance guy today. Why are you home? Wait a minute.
The plumber's been around.
Danny, you're home early. Excuse me.
Who are you? And why are you fixing my washing machine? Naked. I was reading this week that the value of a Facebook account annually, if you have an account, and most of us do, is about $100. So Google. So if you're an account,
it costs me $100 to maintain it.
No. That's what they make from you by having a Gmail address or using Google and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
having a Facebook account. That would make
sense.
$100 a year.
That would make sense because you think about the millions of users they have, and I mean, I would bet that's just ad revenue. That's probably not. I don't know what the
basis of it was, but they know, and there was an experiment on a guy did. And he created a traffic jam by getting a whole bunch of eBay phones, sticking SIM cards in, and sticking them in his son's truck and dragging it down the street. So Google thought there was a traffic jam because there's loads of stationary phones, which is, by the way, how Google knows when there's a traffic jam. Thought that was quite interesting.
Really?
So you're about $100 to these companies per year, and you can argue that it's not data use, there's a form of manipulation because they're coercing you to buy shit. I'm not against.
No. They're steering. Let's be honest. They're
and then the
influencing
UPS
or
send you a fake
steering
news
you.
on your bank account.
Well, exactly.
They're steering you, and again, I mean, if we go back to really like where it started, hey, wouldn't it be cool if, every time I turn on the computer and I'm thinking about how much I want to go buy a car, my computer knows I want to go buy a car, and it's going to start giving me ads that are relevant to that so that I don't waste time looking in the wrong place.
Yeah, Renault Pogo for £2.
Volkswagen shoe.
Are you making fun of my Pogo?
No.
Have you got a Pogo?
That's a very economic car. Come on. I can park anywhere.
A cellophane badger with a
shoehorn
battery.
I
yourself
carried it
into
in here, I just set it down at the door.
Inflatable?
Yeah,
exactly.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, again, these it all started out with a really innocent and actually quite, hey, how do we make our experience better?
Yeah.
Right. But I guarantee you that ad software, the platforms that run that, are way more sophisticated.
Oh, for sure.
Than half of the security platforms being run in half the companies.
Because
in
security
the
platforms
world.
don't make money. They're not there to coerce and make you click.
It's
We spoke to Ward,
the,
didn't we? And he said, like, next to the Pentagon, there was a place on the ground glowing orange.
glowing in the dark.
That was probably, it's probably Amazon's phones causing traffic jams.
I was going to say, or
a supercomputer doing.
Yeah, there was,
it was exactly that.
computer,
He was trying not to give too many things away. Danny and I looking at each other going, that
was a quantum computing.
Yeah.
They have there.
He was talking to a guy with a really weird name.
I'm just guessing that's what it would be. I don't know anything.
And I'm conscious that we're kind of diving around talking about various issues, that sort of stuff. But what we wanted to try and get through today was to talk a little bit about how we manage data security, I guess, day to day. Where are the things that are focused around the end user? Where are the things that we should do as business leaders? What can we do? And I think that if I'm hearing it right, we spend a lot of time educating the end user, and we must continue doing that.
You
about
do.
The evolution
and we spend a lot of money on tool sets that we think will fix everything. And the problem is, we need to put more time and money into
honing them.
We need to marry. Yes.
Yeah. You've got a framework process. The biggest gap is the accidental experience.
Taking that framework and constantly tweaking it and tuning it to stay relevant. Right. And that goes back to the agility statement. So and I've seen this, right? And we spent a lot of money. We had actually a crack security organization, one of the companies I worked with, and like hats off, top to bottom. I hated half the people I worked with, but they were all damn good at their job.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And for the company we were in and the situation we were in, we actually had a fairly good security record. That company invested a ton of money in building an internal framework. Mm-hmm. I mean, they had people who were really crack going around to all these different big frameworks, NIST and
harvesting the bits that were useful
and everything, and pulling it all together, and then building.
True. I was going to say, why would you build an internal framework that's only understood internally? But then I can understand if they want the parts.
Because you're taking from pieces from all of it, and you're customizing it for the company. The problem was they would come through and implement technology, a software company to come in and help us with the security visibility, and you would code in your policies and create a basically a product that within a few days it's old, it's stale, right? And in security, so in security, the tool set isn't the problem.
Yeah.
The adopting the new frameworks isn't the problem. It's actually taking those and investing in the people who are going to enter that, who are going to build the processes in the systems. Yeah. I mean, again, AI is as good as the frame, as good as the rules you provide it to be. And if you don't have people that are constantly tuning that, right? And you got your threat hunters and you got your SOC and you got your what role? And I ask you guys,
so you
guys have both worked in Fortune 500 companies your whole career, just like me. I would beg you the question: show me a company that's actually got teams of people whose job it is to tune the tool set,
as opposed to attack and report. But
you've got people that are who are just constantly tuning the systems, because like an instrument, do you just pick it up and every time it's in tune? No, you've got to constantly keep it in tune.
No, very good. That's a very good analogy.
And this is the biggest thing that's lacking in this big companies, and it's the biggest catch.
Yes, and
for the CISOs.
I've spent, like you say, big companies, Danny, to the GTR absolutely as well. We deploy a lot of really cool stuff, really cool security, and we manage scope, schedule, and budget when we go to bed in the morning until we go to bed at night.
Even the MITRE threats are managed, but it's as Joel just said. It's utilizing them and tweaking them. So
that's also going to make it so
I mean, at the end of the day, lots of money gets spent on the people and the tool sets.
Yeah,
for your company.
So you identify it.
Getting the people into
exactly.
the right
So the project delivers a scope with a set configuration.
It delivers that and then nothing.
And you know how it is in a big company.
Nothing.
Here you go. Correct. Now you have your external vendor supporting it, operating it. You've got your maybe one or two internal guys that work on it. And those guys are so flooded with all the projects and other things that are going
very
on.
Reactive.
They never get
in the front foot.
They never get a chance to actually sit there and go, "Hey, I'm going to go online and look at what are some of the what are the other people using this tool doing to catch the latest threats?
What are the latest threats? What are the latest vulnerabilities being reported? I mean, this is all.
No. By the way, I want to go to the cheapest country possible to host this team because we don't want to spend money on people. That's expensive, right?
Yeah.
So it's the one area I've seen that big companies tend to where the breaking point is because they and again
when they offshore or nearshore.
To all you CISOs who are listening, it's really clever to invest in money in your products. It's really clever to invest in your people, but building the right teams in the right way. That's what everybody falls down on because they just expect, hey, I spent the money here and I spent the money there, so now it is.
No, it's protected,
and that's not the case. And the other big thing I'd have to say is if your security posture, and this is probably one of the toughest things for companies to do, because security people are really, but if you can get your security teams to work together, right? If you can get your SOC and your threat hunters and your tool guys to all get on and and be able to go for beers afterwards and actually get on.
That's a ticket.
You would actually find that the collaboration that they would have across that table would actually build that kind of thing, but they're never given that opportunity because they're spread out all over the world.
Very point when it comes to cross-team bonding and all that kind of stuff. Years ago, when we all used to work in the same building in a certain farm organization, we used to do more business after work over a beer
every day
than we did in the office. And the collaboration, I need this, and the Office 365 guy goes talk to Alan, talk to this guy, and talk to the security guy. We had guys
we had so many different people in that because it was all people who got along, but it was people from. We had a compliance person, we had
we had HR, we had data security person, we had project management, we had SOC guys, we changed.
And you'd go in complaining about something, and the person who's the program manager would be like, "Oh yeah, well you know what, we have to do that all the time, so suck it up and get it done."
Send Danny to get some donuts.
So you know
daily delivery.
It happened, mate.
Daily delivery,
but it worked.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that.
But the point I was going to make was when you when you do offshore, nearshore, and outsource that, you just don't have the same bonding. There's limited bonding you can do over the Teams call. But it's limited.
How about we line up a show where we get a CISO in to sit next to yourself, and it'd be nice to hear it from that level.
Yeah.
We do put together a good argument.
And we know a few good CISOs.
Yes. If you are a CISO out there, or you're on one of our networks, be it LinkedIn or Terry Badu, get in touch. Give us reviews. Because this is something we can keep talking about.
We all come at this from a different approach. We all have a POV that's from a different angle, and the healthy part is
POV. Sorry,
I was like point of view.
It falls into other categories. But
sorry, Joe. Go on.
I mean, it's right there with his log dumps.
That's it.
I can see all of the POVs.
You can read it.
I think it's really important that, and it gets back to you got your processes, you got your framework, you marry them together, and you get the people working together in the right way.
Yeah.
And you can have a very small, efficient team delivering high-end security.
So usability and efficiency are two more that you've mentioned, which again they all align. Your framework, your processes, usability, efficiency, and not. Boom! Yes, we've implemented. We've had the MITRE audit,
and then take that step further. You work in a huge company, and how do you make sure that the 10,000 applications that are running are all following this thing, and how do you track it all? And from an architect's point of view,
it gives me a headache thinking about it.
How are you sitting there and being able to actually get through all of it to make sure you don't have, and my latest little kind of like turn in my career going in because again, data security is really important to me. Mm-hmm. How do we integrate our applications with other companies, and how are we making sure that the data that we're passing back and forth is done in the most secure way?
Of course.
And again, you've got you got a whole different set of men in the middle, and you got all these different vectors. I mean, let's just say it's kind of the battlefield, right? And it's and what I'm finding is it's It's scary. It's one of those you pull up the carpet and you're going, "Oh my God, you've been sweeping everything under here for years."
You just nailed it. You said, it's battleships. Do you remember that game?
Yeah,
yeah. You're pulling one out.
B7.
You pull the second one out. Your pants fall down. It's like you don't know what's coming.
Well, that was when I was a little bit older.
Yeah. I mean, there was a combined age of
when I was a kid, my pants stayed up.
Kind of Connect 4 style, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, the little.
No,
the original notebooks. Wow. When we were kids walking around with it. Imagine if this was a computer.
Yeah.
God,
Or maybe that was just me.
Talking of experience, the studio light's going on, so we're going to wrap this up. So if I'm getting this right, Joel, we can talk all the tools in the world, but you've got to skill the people. It's all very well having the frameworks and updating them. That's
framework,
the framework. Processes and then down to the people. There's a constant, but the theme there is to keep the people
and put it in place,
and keep it.
And it's not done once; it's a constant evolution.
And keep it from becoming, because I hate that other term. Keep it from becoming too rigid, right? You got to be able to make it so that that you can bend and flex. Because again, I mean, just look at the news every day. You're going to see a new attack vector, a new vulnerability.
Well, the Bank of America got there was a data breach this morning for one of their third parties.
As Bank of America, what can I say?
Controversial. Welcome to the show.
He's not a fan.
I mean, that's where my bank is. America, so, I expect the best.
Anyway, we're going to wrap this up now. Again, Joel, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you all again out there. Thank you to Xtelligence for powering the InfoPod Matters.
Subscribe.
InfoPod Matters. Just do what you just spell it backwards. I need a red Bull. Anyway, take care of yourselves out there. It's good night from Kenny.
We'll see you next time.
Joel. It's good night from me.
See you guys. Take care.